Hey everybody, let's talk about this. This is the Roland JC-120, the king of clean. If you're thinking of buying one of these, you're not going to like this, because the truth hurts. And you can tell me by the end of this video if you think we're breaking the sacred cow. First, the good. This thing is a living legend. This and the Fender Twin Reverb are both tied neck and neck for the title, the King of Clean. The Fender Twin Reverb is based mainly on tubes. This is entirely solid state, but they each are living legends, and this thing in particular has been used by many, many people over the years. This came out, I believe, in 1975, and if you were to buy this amp today, you're essentially buying that exact product from 1975. There have been a couple of extremely minor tweaks to the circuit to do with evolving electrical safety standards. But apart from that, it's exactly the same product you're getting, and it gives you the same sound, and it's famous for that. In particular, it's known for clean guitar tones. This thing has a built-in chorus. I believe it's based on a Bucket Brigade chip that is famous in its own right, but it has been on countless recordings, and it is the gold standard for clean guitar tones. And I can tell you from having played this for many years that that is a title it well deserves. In fact, I like it so much that I own two of them in a stereo configuration. If we can possibly see that one over there through all the stuff. Yeah. So if you are looking to achieve that same sound yourself that you have heard on countless recordings, and you buy one of these things today, you can get it. It is still available, and this performs every bit as well as it did in 1975. Now for the bad. And remember, you tell me if you think we're breaking the sacred cow here. This thing is a museum piece. This is a piece of 1975 technology that is sold at modern prices. That is the great irony of this product. Roland has come out with many other versions of this amp, and right now, as of 2025, I believe you can buy the JC-40 and the JC-22. These are smaller versions of this, but the thing is, they're more modern versions of this. They're using modern technology. They're using integrated circuits. Those amps are practically noiseless, and they have all the modern features, including, as one would expect for a clean amp, a stereo input. Now, if you're looking here, I don't know if you can tell, but you got two jacks, high and a low gain. That's not the same thing as a stereo input. This thing does not have a stereo input, ladies and gentlemen. That is the biggest lie of this product. A lot of modern guitar pedals, for example, have a stereo output. If you're using this thing as a pedal platform, it has one major Achilles heel, and that is that it is essentially not a stereo amp, despite what it looks like. Now, we can haggle all day and all night about what the definition of stereo is, but the bottom line is that if you notice, on all of these inputs, there's no stereo input. It takes a mono input, and its effects loop is also equally mono. It has a stereo return, but it has a mono send. So this is a mono amp, and you can't use both channels at the same time to get a stereo output. It doesn't work that way. So what you're getting is you're getting essentially a mono amp with a stereo power amplifier grafted onto it, and that is the big lie. Now, if you were to buy Roland's other offerings, the smaller versions of this amp, the JC-40 and the JC-22, they are both modern amps with stereo inputs. They're also a hell of a lot quieter than this, and I can tell you something, they don't pop when you turn it on. They're also very noisy. I don't know if you can hear that. But there's no modern noise reduction technology. You get this loud hiss because it's a 1975 product. The technology inside here is RC technology. It's got transistors, resistors, and capacitors, all discrete. There's no op amps. It's just a transistor amplifier. And it shows. So the irony is that if you were to buy the lesser versions of this, you actually get a lot more features. You get a stereo effects loop, you get direct ins, you get headphone outs, you get modern recording outputs and things like this. You get low noise. You get all kinds of other things that are modern. But this thing, it's a time capsule. It's like going back in time. And the irony is that if you upgrade from the smaller version to the full flagship model, you lose all those modern features. That's the big lie. Okay, here's the part that nobody gets unless they've really owned this amp or played around with it extensively, and that is that if you have an output from your pedals and it's in stereo and you want that stereo signal amplified through one of these, you technically can connect it to this amp. You can take the stereo output of your pedals and you can plug it into the stereo effects return of this amp. It has a mono effects send, but a stereo effects return. And technically, you can hook up this amp like that. The problem, though, is that this thing doesn't have a master volume. So it's like plugging the output from your pedals directly into the power amp for this with no volume control. The volume is set to maximum, putting out 120 watts. So there's no way to turn down the volume. You would have to run your pedals at an extremely low volume for that to work, and you'll get a very bad result. You'll get a very noisy output, and it'll be very unpredictable, and God help you if your cables are scratchy, because this thing will be popping at full volume. So not ideal. In fact, for me to actually use this in a clean setup, I had to buy 2 of them and run them in a stereo pair like this. That's the only way you can do it with any amount of finesse and have a good result. So that's the big inconvenience. If you're looking for that stereo clean from a stereo clean input through a JC-120, you kind of need 2 of them to do it properly. So where does that leave us? I'll tell you what I think. I think that Roland should make an updated version of this. All the modern technology, all the added features of the lesser versions of this, like the JC-22 or the JC-40, but the same power circuit as this, the same sound as the classic model, the best of both worlds. I think that that would make a lot more sense. Why make the flagship model handicapped from the lesser versions? That's what doesn't make sense to me. So you let me know. Did we kill the sacred cow, or did we ride that sacred cow to freedom? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. You guys are awesome. I'll see you on the next video. Take care.